Hi, audience. I welcome you all. So today we have Gary with us, and you might wonder why exactly this format. So you might have already seen a few of my videos, wherein the idea is from my side is to share my perspective on different things. And one thing I would like to acknowledge, or just to convey you, is I love my country and I would like to know perspective how exactly it is perceived. India is perceived. We know within country, but how exactly people across globe perceive our country. So the idea is I want to connect with people from different nationality, get to know their culture, and if they have any questions related to India, I'm more than happy answering that. And yeah, the idea is to learn as much as we can going forward because we have immense potential for our country, and it is always good to learn from the best practices around the world. So I have with me Gary Morgan today. So we work for the same company. He's super senior to me, and I respect him for the work he does. And there are so many things that I have learned. So I just reached out to him for this connect, and yeah, exactly. We are here recording my first video in this particular series. So hi Gary, thanks a lot for accepting.
Hey, Ryan. Yeah, thanks for inviting me to your show. It's great to be here. I'm looking forward to going through the topic with you today and learn a bit more about your culture as well.
Yeah, so Gary, maybe if you can just let us know. I know that you have lived in New Zealand as well as Australia, so maybe some thing on that if you want to share.
Yeah, sure. So I was born in New Zealand. It's a small country in the Pacific. I moved to Australia when I was about 20. Just there wasn't enough opportunity back in NZ. It's a fairly small country, not many sort of high-paying jobs, that kind of thing. So I moved to the eastern states first to kind of try my hand there. Couldn't quite get the jobs I was looking for there, so then I eventually moved to Western Australia to Perth. Probably a city that's not very popular around the world. It's very small, so most people when they think of Australia, they think of Melbourne or Sydney or those big cities. So Perth is it had a label when I first got here called Dolesville. It's so small and isolated, but it's got a bit more exciting over the last sort of 20 years that I've been here. So yeah, that's sort of how I got here. I'm an accountant by trade, so I did my accounting in Australia, and then eventually I changed to software engineering, and now I'm a software engineer for an oil and gas company, sort of working on the risk and trading systems for commodities.
So one thing I can tell you for sure, people in subcontinent for sure know Perth because of cricket, right? So it has always been the case that we remember, like in the series of 2008 or 7, if I vaguely remember, we won Perth Test, but before that, it was always the case that it's the fastest pitch in the world, and all the cricketers from subcontinent will struggle there. So obviously, in this part of the world, Perth is very familiar, but you rightly said, if you have to rank, obviously Sydney, Melbourne take those spots. But yes, Perth is something we are pretty much aware, primarily because of cricket. Okay, so one thing, like my how I got to know New Zealand and cricket, that is cricket, right? And I'll tell you one story that I was always excited when India was playing in New Zealand or Australia, primarily because the matches will start early morning in India, somewhere around 3:30 a.m. and 4. And I was so excited about cricket because I never wanted that, okay, I'll wake up and I'll have to wait till 2:30 p.m. for a match to start if it is happening in India. I'm like, okay, as soon as I start my day, the match should be live, right? So I always like New Zealand and Australia too. So one thing I'll touch upon primarily when I see Australians, right? They were very ruthless in sports, and I'm telling you this in a very positive manner. Why? Because as a child I was always so fearful of Australian team when they were dominant, right, in 2003s 2007s, right? So one thing I learned about the people, and maybe you can touch upon how exactly you feel like on this aspect, that they are the people who are like pretty much they know the job, and they are super confident. They have those sporting culture built, and it is like they will get job done. So it seems like that in our culture we force people to be confident. Okay, we teach people to be confident, but it seems like that in that part of world it somehow comes naturally. I just wanted to understand why exactly that is the case, or maybe if you have to throw some light on that part.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Like I know from a kid, it was just always taught that you have to kind of go out there, you got to play hard, you got to represent your country. But I think as well over here, it's about the mateship. It's about giving everyone a fair go. And I know that even when I played sport, you'd do your best to win, you'd try as hard as you could, and then after the game, you'd go have a beer with your opponent and you'd have a chat to them and stuff. So I don't know. I'm not sure about how the confidence side of it works, but I just know that from a young age, we're kind of taught that you represent your country, you have to go hard, you have to try and win. So um, I think maybe some of it comes from that, and we have some pretty good grassroots sporting facilities. So from like probably the age of 5 or 6, you're kind of brought up through the different systems and the different sports. So maybe it comes from that as well.
Okay, got it. So I'll just, and I can't agree more on that part wherein you said that people are like ruthless on sport, but they're as good as human being outside field, right? So I'll give you an example, Matthew Hidden, right? So again, I'm going back to cricket a lot because this is something pretty close to me. So whenever these openers, right, Adam Gilchrist and Matthew Hayden will used to they were used to come to bat, we were like frightened that that they will just smash boundaries here and there. And we were like, Matthew Hayden is a person who cannot be like a good person. We had that perception because he was so ruthless on the field. But post that, one thing that has changed me a lot, seeing these people as a mentors in IPL, be it Ricky Ponting or Matthew Hayden or Adam Gilchrist, they are such a nice human being when outside field, right, when they are doing their job, right? So that changed my perception that okay, this is something you should be, that you should give your 100% on the field, but outside that you should be total flip. You should not be perceived like very hard tough person. You are as gentle as soft as you can, and be they're very respectful, right? So I totally agree on that part. But just I what I wanted to understand, Gary, is like, because this is something, when a child is born, right, it doesn't matter in which part of the world they're born, right? They do not carry any baggage, anything, when they're born. But over the time we have seen that in different society or geography, people are built differently. So when I'm saying that people are confident in that part of world, is it something you have mentioned that maybe the facility that you have that gives confidence over time that you can do good, right? But I just wanted to understand the part of schooling and parenting in this aspect. Is it something wherein the schools, as a parent, maybe you might have seen, or maybe you yourself, that whether schools, or for that matter parents also, uh, how exactly that plays role in developing a person's confidence
Yeah,
and
I guess I've got a couple of kids, and sport does a few things that I quite like. The first thing is it gets them exposed to a different group of friends. So outside of the school, they have some different friends from different sporting grounds. Helps kind of keep them fit and healthy. Gives them some other activities. Um, so I don't push my kids to kind of be the best or anything like that. I just want them to have fun and to have some different skills outside of the formal curriculum that school offers. It's funny. I was just thinking when you mentioned people that are kind of ruthless and really tough. I was thinking that good teams are ruthless and tough. When you guys come to Australia, I've definitely been scared of the Indian cricket team many times. Um, I remember my first cricket game when I came to Perth. It was 1992, and it was Sachin Tendulkar. I think he was only 18 years old. I think he got his third 100 in that match, and he was scary. I mean, it was so calm. They're trying to like do some leg balls and stuff and trying to like rattle him, but he was just so calm and smooth and just intimidating. He could just stick at it and keep going. So I think good teams are intimidating, and India has fielded plenty of good teams that are very, very scary even to us as well.
Got it. And maybe the next question I had was like maybe you have already answered it partially, but I just want to understand. Maybe I'll give you my perspective. What exactly happens in our culture? Parents are generally protective of their child. Okay, and they're so protective at times that and I'm just sharing my experience. It can be different when you talk to different people. So but generally I have seen that and one more thing to clarify, India is so culturally diverse from north to south, east to west, that my perception of India can entirely be different from someone else who you are talking to. So maybe I'm just talking my part and my experience, what I have seen. Parents are generally protective here. They will fear that they will do something wrong when they are alone. And that protective nature over the time, what happens is like that doesn't allow you to be confident. You're always in a validation mode that whether this is right, you will always seek some permission. Is it the case in Australia or New Zealand that usually parents, what I have seen when I see reels or when I follow cricketers or different famous personality in New Zealand, it seems like the society is pretty open. They allow kids to explore, and it is not with a conservative mindset that they will do something wrong when they are alone. So how exactly that goes?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. Like even my kids, I let them get to school by themselves. They can, walk to school, ride their bikes, take the bus. Even my daughter, she's 13 and she'll go with her friends by herself. I think as parents, you do, worry about them, have concern, but you also have to kind of let them fail a bit as well. Sometimes failure can be quite extreme. We had a pool party here last week, and one of the kids did a flip off the wall and kind of hit their face on the side of the wall, and they hurt themselves quite badly. So felt pretty terrible for that, but yeah, I think they have to have some risk. Like I know here, two kids will typically get their first part-time job at maybe say 14 or 15 years old. Um, so I guess we do care about the kids, but we have to kind of let them fail a bit as well. Most of the time, that's going to work out okay, but sometimes that will have some bad results as well.
Got it. Okay. And maybe next question will be in continuation to the same thing. Like in our society, usually what happens is like when we see a kid marks, like the marks that they're getting in their school subjects, that is something like very closely monitored, and they will simply be tied to the fact that if you're getting lesser mark, that you should work harder, and they will get scolded at times because they're not working hard enough. I just wanted to understand you as a parent, how exactly you see those marks, because for me it is like majority of competitive exam that is happening across world, they will not ask for 90%. Or in India also we have like the main let's say competitive exams for engineering, for medical, or for that civil servants, like they are like asking 55-60%, but still people are like, why are you not getting 90%, 95%? So it is R feels like that you just push a student just to get marks without
Yeah,
having understanding that whether he's even understanding the basics or not. How exactly that goes for you or in general?
yeah. So like for me, I guess I'll just do like a medium amount of pressure. Neither of my kids kind of cope with too much pressure. If you kind of demand certain marks, I found that doesn't really work. I found it kind of worked more if I kind of helped them after school study the topics they want to do. I remember we had a colleague at work from Asia. He scored like 99% in pretty much everything. He was like a genius. But then when he came to work for us, he didn't have the personality skills. Like he couldn't talk. You'd say good morning to him, and he'd just look at you, and he wouldn't say goodbye, and he couldn't talk at all. So I don't know if like being a genius, um, is any better than someone who is like average, but they can talk to the business and they can talk to different people. So it's a tough one. I think you almost kind of let the kids go at their own pace and be there to kind of support them and help them and mentor them. Like I know if I'm helping my kids do the maths homework, they'll get better in the maths result, or if they're struggling in an area, I might need a tutor, that kind of thing. So it's a tough one to balance, I think, as a parent. Some kids respond quite well to the pressure, and some don't. Mine don't. So I just try and keep it a bit more relaxed.
Got it. Got it. Then one more question I had was like, and maybe I'll first finish the question and I'll try to explain few aspects related to that. So one thing I feel, Gary, is for me and multiple times all the problems that we see around world, I feel the ultimate answer, if you'll just go deep down to each and every problem that we have in this world, I feel like that ultimately the answer to every question is the concept of morality and ethics. Okay. If let's suppose everyone in an ideal scenario understands this concept, right? That we should be moral, we should be ethical, then I don't think there exists any problem right now, because ultimately the root cause of everything is having those understanding of what is moral, what is not, what is ethical, what is unethical. But still, we see a stark difference in different indexes. And when I say different indexes, I'm talking about the corruption index, I'm talking about the happiness index, I'm talking about so many other things. Ultimately, these are created based on the fact that what is the obviously when I'm talking about corruption index, it is like why the people are corrupt in first place. And why I'm talking to you on this particular topic is like you come from a society which is a developed society, a developed country when we talk about New Zealand and Australia. And when we compare it with developing nations, so if you see like South Asia or for that matter any country, we are not doing that well in these indexes. And I feel like that, yeah, people might lack ethics, they might lack morality on certain topics. It is not the case with everyone, but and when I'm saying this, I'm not justifying this, but at times what happens is like if your basic needs are done and dusted, right, maybe you're not even thinking about survival. I'm talking about people who are already from developed nation. But when we come to like developing nation, there exists a lot of issue, and all the issue are somehow related with each other. So when I say income disparity, you feel like that you are also putting same effort, someone else is also putting same effort, somehow he's getting more than me. How exactly I can at least make sure that I'm able to earn a bread and butter for my family. I'm
Yeah.
not justifying here that whether they should be doing something wrong, whether they should be bribing, or whether they should be taking money in form of corruption. But my question is like somehow this is related, and this is human psyche, how exactly things unfold. And we need to take care of this in order to make sure that we take these down over the time, right? So that we can improve. But my point is here, is it the case? I just want to understand, because I want to understand that maybe at one point in time, maybe Australia was also a $3,000 per capita economy, maybe 50 years back or 60 years back. And I want to understand whether if tomorrow we get to a per capita income somewhere close to a developed country, will these things automatically go away because people have more money, they are not worried about anything like that? I just wanted to understand that when you see Australia 30 years back, 40 years back, do you see a gradual improvement of your quality of life, okay, as things has improved? Just wanted, maybe you got my question.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think I have definitely noticed a big change to quality of life. I think countries that are democracies, we can vote for different parties and have different parties come to play. I think that is beneficial because usually you'll have a conservative party or have a liberal party, and over time, as long as both parties get a go, I think the society will improve over time. I think the perfect world is where people can kind of move up. Like if you kind of you're a lower class, but you work hard, and you kind of get to the middle class. And I think if you feel like you can move up through your own efforts, I think that does help because you know everything's down to you. It's up to you to do better for yourself and your family. So I think then you move up. Um, I guess societies like communism, technically they sound the best because everyone's kind of treated the same. But I think you almost get the inverse problem where you get oligarchs and very wealthy people that kind of just take all the money and the power, and everyone has kind of nothing. So it's very, very hard. There's no perfect form of government. They'll have different pros and cons, but I think democracy, I mean, has its own flaws, but I think over time that does give you a pretty good quality of life. I've noticed with the inflation for us here that probably our average quality of life has probably declined a bit over the last sort of couple of years. So there are swings and roundabouts. Things can improve, they can decline. It's probably declining slightly for us here over the last few years.
Thank you, Gary. So obviously now we understand there are few things, and here we are just trying to understand perspective. So obviously we get to know, and we already know that there are certain things that certain countries are good at. And what I feel like is people should be very open. What I feel at times is like we create when exactly ego takes over is like we don't want to break. How I can put it, like I'll put it in India's perspective, because when I go and argue that we should improve this, people will not see today's problem. Rather, they will see India. In India, in history, we were called a golden bird because we were very wealthy and things like that. So they'll start comparing. You don't know, we were like that. We were like, so it is like, in order to improve, first you need to accept your present, okay, and then only you can grow. Otherwise, you are just in that fake illusion that you were like this, okay, but the truth is like you are currently not there, okay. We all must take pride in our history, but we should also be aware of the fact that where we are currently standing, right? And if we accept that, then only we are agreeing that okay, we have again potential to go back to where we think we belong. So this is something, okay, so maybe yeah, this is something I wanted to cover first, and now I'll just switch to India focused topic, Gary. Maybe if you have any questions related to this, you can ask me, or any sort of question that you have. You are so senior that you might already have interacted with so many Indians that you already understand India in a generic way, maybe in specific way also, right? You might have already your understanding of India, but the idea is like if still have any question that you would like to clarify, you can ask. But I will start this particular section with you, that what exactly is the general perception of India. Okay, why I'm asking, because this is so very important for us, that how exactly world perceives us, so that we know where we are standing, whether we need to continue doing good what we are doing, or whether we should be improving. If there is some scope of improvement, what exactly can be done, that needs to be thought.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. My grandfather, he spoke Tamil fluently. He worked in India in the 1930s. My dad, he actually did a lot of yoga, and he actually converted to Hinduism. So yeah, my family actually has relatively rich ties with India over a long period of time. But the general Australian, when they think of India, I think they see a superpower. They see a country that's landed vehicles on the moon. I think in 2023 landed a vehicle on the moon. You're an important regional power to maintain balance in the world. And if India wasn't there, there'd be a lot more chaos in that part of the world. So I think we have some shared history with the British. The British we're in India for a period of time, as well as Australia and New Zealand. So a bit of shared history. We're part of the Commonwealth. We've got lots of commonality with the sports, the cricket, and other sports as well. And we have important security pacts. The Quad 4 with the US and us and you guys. It's an important security pact to keep the world in a stable place. In Australia, we do have a bit of population issues. Our birth rate's about 2.1 per adult female, which means that if we don't get immigrants, our population will decline. So we have to kind of constantly bring more immigrants into Australia to kind of keep our population growth positive. And India is seen as a country where we can get like a lot of very talented and skilled people to help keep our population, stable and growing. So, there's a lot of very talented people, engineers, doctors, a lot of very skilled people, very young demographic, very resourceful, can do a lot with more. I'll give you an example. Last week, my bike broke down. I just went on YouTube to get a video on how to fix it. And there's like an Australian guy, and his video is like 3 hours on how to fix it. So no, I don't have time for that. So next guy was this guy from India. His video is like 8 minutes, and it was just perfect. He used tools I had in my garage. It was fixed in a few minutes, and I just think Indian people are very resourceful, very talented. So I think that's the general positive perception of Indian people. Then I guess the negative might be our current state of affairs over here is our housing hasn't really kept pace with the immigration. So I guess I don't know if you see the news or if there's any news there, but you might see maybe say slow visa approvals, which is a fair complaint if you see that in the news where you are. And you might see people annoyed about immigration because of the housing. We're not making enough housing. So yeah, that's probably the positive view that we have and the negative view. But I think the average Australian would say that India is a very important superpower and important to keep harmony in the world.
Got it. So I think one perspective I wanted to share here is like what usually people, Gary, doesn't understand, and that is something they should be made aware. Primarily, I'm talking about Western society, is that the declining birth rate. Okay, so majority of Western society that we see, be it Japan, Korea, I think South Korea is at alarming low. The birth rate is alarming low. Same goes for the Europe. Okay, and majority of nation, what we're seeing is like the declining birth rate, and it is very evident that their government understand that we will not be able to sustain our population going forward, and in order to maintain everything, we need more population.
Yeah,
But for a general person, right, who simply wants to live his or her life, enjoy the money that they have and all the facilities they are getting. When they see someone coming from outside, they might see them as alien primarily because they will be viewed as someone who is trying to take their resources, which usually people feel that because they were born in that particular country, by default that privilege is with them for those resources and everything. This is the very crude thought process that I'm sharing. But ultimately, people needs to be aware of the fact that in order for the country to survive, you need manpower.
yeah,
And because in last, I will say post World War II, after all the Western societies, majority of countries, they became. I'll not say that's the reason of becoming rich, but we have seen that, yeah, exactly. Majority of society got wealthier, Western society got wealthier, and with wealth, what comes is like the privilege. Okay, when you do not have money, you never pick and choose what kind of work is suitable for you. But when you have that, you get a privilege to choose, right? And over the time, I was reading one of a video by Ray Dalio. He's a great economist from USA, and he says how exactly the psychology changed with money over the time, and why exactly empire rise and fall, primarily because of the change in psyche of human population. When they become choosy, they will be less hardworking and things like that, and they will prioritize their happiness over what is their duty for society. And one of them is like the next generation in form of children. And with that declining, the country will not be able to, as you mentioned, 2.1 is the golden ratio wherein you can maintain your population. But if it is not happening, so I think this is something general population should be aware of. Okay, but at the same time, people who are migrating, it is more important for them to respect the native culture, because all the conflict happens only because people are not able to assimilate well with that culture. At least if you're not assimilating, be very respectful of their local culture, their custom. And most of the people I see, 90% of the people are always welcoming. It is just in the age of social media, it is those 10% case that is so much exaggerated that people create a perception within country, outside country, that okay, this is the reality, that entire population is anti-immigrants and things like that, that we are also seeing in United States. Maybe your view on that.
yeah. I think Australia, we've been quite a welcoming country. I mean, I'm an immigrant here myself. Most of my friends in Perth weren't born here. Most people here are immigrants. So Australia does have quite a welcoming culture. I think I mean, you always get that 10% who are never happy for anything. But I think really they only pipe up when maybe they feel like they're missing out, or maybe they feel like they're not getting what they're entitled to. So maybe we've had a bit of that with the housing crisis at the moment. But I think generally, like if someone came to Australia, part of the Australian culture is to give everyone a fair go, give everyone a chance. So I think Australia's pretty welcoming. We've seen some of those issues you mentioned in the UK as well, where maybe they have, maybe too much immigration. Um, and I think it's up to the governments to try and make sure everyone has what they need to encourage that social harmony. Um, yeah, US, yeah, we've seen that as well, especially with Trump's second term. It's obviously, reduced immigration from the southern countries.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe I have one question related. We both are in IT right now, Gary, and maybe I just wanted to understand your view of you might have worked with people across different geographies at par or maybe below you. How exactly you perceive people from India who are in this industry? Why I'm asking this particular question? Because in our culture, it is hard to say. People do say no. It is not that case, but it is usually, I don't know whether out of respect you say, out of pressure you say, or whatever. There is a case that at least I'm talking about people who have just joined the industry. They're very fearful of saying no. Okay,
Yep.
and it is like if you're given work, they will try to complete it without in other part of world I have seen they're very practical about their work life balance, but here what I feel like now that is coming slowly and gradually. I'm not pretty sure whether this is a right thing for a country which is still developing. When a country is developing, you need to work hard, right? And this is my view, and you need to have that thought process that you're not only working for yourself, you're working for that country, your country as well, because
Yep.
everything that you are doing is ultimately the dollars coming in your country that strengthen you till the time dollar is supreme, right? So I don't know man, like maybe someone is having this feeling, and I'm not forcing anyone to have this feeling, but I feel like this is somehow you should be feeling that exactly how you can, as part of your job, you can help your country, right? But I just wanted to understand your view of when you talk to, let's say, someone from India or someone from US or other geography, how exactly you see those people as different, primarily focus on someone who is Indian.
Yeah, a couple of good questions there. I don't know if you know, but in Australia we have this thing called right to disconnect. So technically it gets to 5 p.m. and people from the US or other countries aren't really supposed to give me a phone call or talk to me. So we're probably one of the most laid back countries in the world. We typically start work at 8 a.m. We go home at 5. We don't work later than that. To your question, how do we see Indian folks? For the company I work for, India is like the number one focus area to recruit talent because a few factors: the high quality work, the strong English skills, because many of us aren't multilingual; we only speak English, and then basically the dedication to work, the technical capability. So India is seen from like our perspective as a very favorable place to do business. And then to your third question is, how do you say no? I think that's a really good one. It's a valuable question. I think setting boundaries is important for all aspects of life, whether it's setting boundaries with your peers, your colleagues, your partner, your kids. Having those boundaries are important. So I think the key is to be upfront and early. So if someone has a request that's unreasonable, I think it's always okay to go, yeah, I like what you're saying there, but it's going to either take a bit more time, or can we pull in an extra resource to help get it done? Um, and kind of just explain the challenge. And I think, every culture is different. I think if you told that to an Australian, they'll be like, yep, that's okay. If you told that to a Singaporean, you may just have to kind of word it a bit differently. So depending on what country it is, you may just have to kind of phrase it. But I think saying no is fine. I think you have to set boundaries. I think that's important. I think respect comes from setting boundaries as well.
Got it. So maybe Gary, whatever question I had in my mind, I have already done with that. Maybe a short rapid fire. Okay. Maybe you'll have to be very prompt here. Okay. So whatever comes first, it doesn't matter whether that will have a positive impression or negative impression. It's just that the default thing that is coming to your mind. I'll have few questions for you. I have written it down. I'll just ask one by one. The very first thing that comes to your mind when you hear India.
Biryani food.
Brand. Okay. So next question related to that only when you said biryani. So most probably the answer will be same, but is it something from Indian food that you like other than biryani, or any specific kind of biryani you're talking about here?
Yeah, so I quite like the biryani from like the northern regions. I think it has like more of a like an Arabian flavor. What I like about it is every mouthful is just different. So you have one mouthful that's like, oh, that's some nice flavors there. Another mouthful, it's like a totally different set of flavors. So like every mouthful is different, and then just the depth of flavor as well. One of my friends in Singapore, he takes me to this little place there, and they just have like amazing biryani. And I always crave it. I can't get it here in Perth, Australia. But it's just amazing. And every time I go to Singapore, I have to go get it. It's the first thing in my mind. It's the first thing I'll do when I get off the plane is going to get some brownie. So yeah, I love it. I like hot and spicy food. Not everyone does. So I also like those potatoes, sort of anything vindaloo. Yeah, heaps of Indian food. It's actually my favorite. Indian's my favorite food. Thai's my second, and yeah, I just food from part of the world is just amazing. Western food's quite boring. It does the job, but it doesn't have the flavors.
Yeah, 100%. I can agree. Can't agree more. Okay, so the next question, because obviously when it is Australia and New Zealand, cricket will be there, right? Uh, do, do you watch cricket?
I do, yeah.
Okay, so maybe you'll have to answer me one favorite player from each country, that is Australia, New Zealand, and India.
Okay, cool. So I think from NZ, I'd probably go Chris Cairns. He was an all-rounder. I
Yeah,
just
yeah,
liked
yeah.
him. It was pretty cool. From Australia, I find some of the Australian cricket players can be like a little bit arrogant, and because of the rivalry with NZ, I like watching them lose sometimes. But yeah, I've quite a few really good players. A bit of a mind blank there. Probably sound like a Brett Lee, just like people that can kind of just come in and just change the match completely. And then from India, yeah, Sachin Tendulkar, just because he was one of the first I'd ever seen. I saw an interview with him later on. He said that match in Perth that was actually one of his favorite matches because he came to the fast wicket, and um, I think it was actually the newspaper saying a new legend has arrived or something like that, and he just said that it was one of his favorite matches. So yeah, there's just three players there.
Got it. For me, obviously, for I feel 90% of people who ask who are in their 30s or more, they will say in India that it doesn't matter how famous Virat Kohli or Rohit Sharma becomes, Sachin Tendulkar will be their favorite. And it has
Yep.
always been the case. I'll tell you one instance that whenever Vinder Sehwag and Sachin were batting, I always wanted Sachin to be on non-striker end. Why? Because I don't want him to face ball. So there should be no reason for him to get out. That's it. I want to see him there, and then you are hopeful that something good will happen. That's the kind of support or love we had for Sachin. And if I have to talk about Australia, I always admired, not during his uh, uh, time, but it is Ricky Ponting because of his leadership and the command he had. Many things we didn't agree on field with him, especially in that 2008 series and things like that. But still, when I see him today, I feel that in order to be a leader who simply wants to do best, I think he was pretty good in his role. So, and for New Zealand, I liked Shane Bond.
Yeah.
When yeah, exactly. He was pretty smart. Same goes for like Brett Lee also. They were flamboyant at their peak, right? So I used to like him a lot. And as you mentioned, people like restraints, and they were the legends, right? Nathan Estel also. So I remember whenever we had cards, we used to play a lot of cards. So as soon as you know, okay, Nathan Estel, he will be there to play for New Zealand in terms of runs and things like that. So yeah, that's the That's my answer.
Yeah, Shane
Next,
Warne is another one that I really enjoyed as well. Just a bit of a larrikin, sort of on and off the field. Is sort of like a typical sort of Aussie. So yeah, I think Shane Warne has a bit of a soft spot for me as well.
I think he was favorite of my dad also, primarily because of his clean action. So many people who used to ball close to 100 miles per hour, they had some action which will feel like jerk, right? Same for Bretley, same for Shoaib Akhtar, but for his was very clean action, right? It was smooth, like rounding of his arm, and it never felt like he's jerking. And with that action, it was pretty hard to generate 100 miles per hour, but still he was doing that effortlessly. So yeah. Next question, Gary. Have you been to India ever?
You know, I haven't. It's been on my bucket list forever. I think one of the big issues is that like Emirates and the Gulf states have done such a good job of making those places hubs that everyone from Australia tends to go to the Gulf states. They'll spend a couple of days there, then they'll go to Europe or America. Um, but yeah, it's always been on my bucket list. I have to, get there and go there at least once. My parents have been there. Quite a few of my family have been there, so I've been quite slack. I need to get there.
Got
Maybe
it.
you can invite me over for a work trip.
Sure, sure, Gary. Whenever you are coming to India, you just let me know, and I can plan your itinerary. And if we are at same location, I can help you out, so I can be your guide. No worries.
Have you been
Uh,
to Australia?
no, I have never got chance. So the only country I have been outside India is UAE, United Arab Emirates. So there also I went there as part of my company, one of the company, okay, for one of the clients. So never outside that I feel like traveling, but again there's so many things that at times you're not able to plan, and then you are like, okay, if you're planning, then you need to see like India having not very strong passport, right? You need to plan everything up front. Okay, so there are many countries wherein you get e-visas, like ASEAN country, Thailand, Vietnam. They're pretty easy to travel to. Okay, you'll get it. But if you are trying to visit, let's say, Australia, New Zealand, European countries, or for that matter, USA, you'll have to apply for visa. That will take at least month or two in order to, and there will be so many documents. So it is like, okay, it doesn't come naturally to plan these trips. Okay, so for a person who is, let's suppose, from Japan or Singapore, it is like, yeah, their passport is the strongest passport in the world. They just need to book it, and they need to travel, right? So that privilege. But I have my younger brother lives in Dubai. He has already traveled 7 to 8 countries. Okay, this is something in my bucket list as well, but maybe going forward I'll plan maybe first with ASEAN countries which are easy to go to, right? And then we'll see how exactly, because it comes with a lot of budget, traveling Australia, New Zealand, and
Yeah.
same with Europe. So it's like that. And when you're traveling Europe, you doesn't want to just go to one country and then come back. You have, like, if you are having Schengen visa, then you can, like, travel across multiple countries, and for that you need budget also. So something that maybe I can plan in future. But yeah, if you're planning India, you can for sure let me know, and will help you. Because if you're traveling India with someone who is local, your experience will be enhanced. I will say 10x, 100x, primarily because you might not get into things which you would like to avoid, right? There's so many things. There are 90 good people, then there are 10 people who are trying to just hug you and things like that. So it is always the case. But if you're with someone who is like local, your experience will be like elevated for sure. Because I feel India is one country which is so culturally rich, so culturally diverse. Not only culturally, geographically also it is so diverse. From north it is Himalayas, in the south we have beaches, in the west we have deserts, in the east we have evergreen forests, and whatnot, right? You ask for it and you have it. Like, everything is there in India. But it is just that maybe I always feel that it will take some time for us to develop infrastructure around all these things, the potential that we have. I always say this to everyone: how many major religions do you have in world? Maybe 5 or 6, right? And out of them, almost 3 or 4, if I talk about Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism, these four are like born in India. So see how much potential do you have if you
Yep.
can convert it. If people have a great perception of India, about safety, about travel, about air quality. There are so many other factors that people usually think before traveling, right? So if we can some work, I don't think this will miraculously happen overnight. It will take still some time, and we are in the right spec. The only idea is like if we can fasten this process of achieving what we are trying to attain, and that's the idea of this video. Maybe even 1 or 2% can learn from your culture, how exactly you were able to do better. What are the aspects wherein people from Australia or New Zealand are good? How can we learn? And if that change even 1%, I feel like the video, the purpose suffice for me, because I'm not literally going asking people to change. It is just that the idea we are trying to uh, share, and it is on people's uh, understanding and their willingness to change something. So that's the idea. Last question I have, if you have to choose one country to live, Australia or New Zealand?
Oh, yeah, that's a tough one. I think it's Australia just because I've been here longer now. My kids are here. My parents have moved here too now, so yeah, everyone's here. Yeah, NZ's a very pretty country. I actually plan to come here, make some money, and go back, but that didn't happen. Yeah,
Yeah.
Australia, awesome place, awesome people. I love the beaches and the weather and the climate. So, yep, lock in Australia.
Thanks a lot, Gary. Thanks for watching. If you like the content, you can share this with someone who you feel like might to whom it might help, right? And you can share, subscribe this particular channel if you want to see similar content going forward.